assure you, Mr. President, that you can keep the ceasefire in Gaza and conclude the 3 phases of this deal?
I'm not confident. It's not our war, it's their war, but
Apologize.
I'm not confident, but I think they're very weakened on the other side.
Do you support the 2 states?
Gaza, boy, I looked at a picture of Gaza. Gaza is like a massive demolition site. That place it's really got to be rebuilt in a different way.
Do you plan to help rebuilding Gaza?
My mind. You know, Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location. On the sea, best weather. You know, everything's good. It's like some beautiful things could be done with it, but it's very interesting. But some fantastic things could be done with Gaza.
How do you see the future in governance for Gaza?
Well, it depends. I can't imagine you could have, well, you certainly can't have the people that were there. Most of them are dead.
While much of the world decries genocide, Trump recently brought up the great real estate possibilities in Palestine. This is reminiscent of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner's recent comments, whose family is also in the real estate business.
There are real fears on the part of Arabs, and I'm sure you talk to a lot of them, who think once Gazans leave Gaza, Netanyahu's never going to let them back in.
Maybe, but I'm not sure there's much left of Gaza at this point. So, you know, if you think about even the construct, like, you know, Gaza was not really a historical precedent, right? It was the result of a war, right? You had tribes that were in different places, but then Gaza became a thing. Egypt, you know, used to run it. And then, you know, over time, you had different governments that came in different ways. Both sides are spending a fortune on military. I think neither side really wants to have, you know, a terrorist organization enclaved right between them. And Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable. It's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there, but I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. But I don't think that Israel has stated that they don't want the people to move back there afterwards.
Trump recently suggested that the Palestinian people be moved into other nations.
I'm talking to General El-Sisi tomorrow, sometime I believe, and I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. I mean, you're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's, you know, it's over the centuries. That's many conflicts that site. And I don't know, it's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished, and people are dying there. So I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing in a different location where they can maybe live in peace. Temporarily, or it could be either. It could be temporarily, could be long term.
The claim to Israel by the Zionists is that the land was promised to them by God thousands of years ago. But a 2012 Johns Hopkins study shows that Ashkenazi Jews are not Semitic people. Geneticist Iran Alek found that European Jews were primarily the children of a Turkish people known as the Khazars, who converted to Judaism between the 7th and 9th centuries. Next week, President Trump will be meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump has received over $200 million from the Israeli lobby, who want more than just Palestine. And Trump knows that Netanyahu is not open to a two-state solution. Greg Reese reporting.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's Doug Diamond, and welcome to another Diamond Report Live. I'm glad you are here. It is 10:04 p.m. on Groundhog Day, 2/2/25. And yes, some folks in chat are kind of having fun saying, don't listen to what that groundhog says. He's full of it. Well, he might be full of it if you see the weather report that we will get to later, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So anyway, welcome. Glad you guys are here. This is Doug Diamond. You've reached another Diamond Report Live. I certainly appreciate your being here for the next little while. I don't know, probably a couple hours at least, maybe 3. I don't know. We've been known to go about 3 hours or so. I don't think it'll be more than that, but you're welcome to stay as long as you want. Come and go as you want. And yeah, you can see that Punxsutawney Phil, had he just been aware of chemical ice nucleation and geoengineering, then the forecast might be a little different than we're seeing it. But yeah, he saw a shadow today, so officially I think it's 6 more weeks of winter. But I don't know. I'm not sure what the actual numbers are, but pretty much most of the time he sees his shadow. So it's usually always 6 more weeks of winter. So I don't know. I don't think he knows about geoengineering, though, do you? Anyway, I found this picture and thought it was really very appropriate. And yeah, we'll look at that a little closer as well. Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies, so we'll check out the movie trailer for that at the end of the broadcast tonight. I can't really play it right now because of the music in it. It might stop my live stream, believe it or not. So we'll look at that later just for fun because it's such a great movie. And anyway, hope you guys are doing well and had a good week this week. And yeah, so let's start with some of the folks in chat. I don't think Miss Emily's here quite yet, but she may be. I don't know. Prayers for Emily from the Verba family. Lord Jesus, be with Emily during this time of hardship. Give her peace and keep her faith. Help her to enrage the evil one with her Holy Spirit-led life. Wow, that's a great prayer. Thank you so much, Verbas, for providing that prayer for us, for all of us. So yeah, if you guys weren't aware or didn't see last week's show, her dad's been missing for some time, and kind of came out on the show as it was unfolding the last couple of weeks that in fact his plane that he was piloting, his single engine plane in Nevada, had crashed, and they had located the crash field at the top of a mountain, and that's kind of where it was left. We didn't really have any other details. And last week we talked about a team of guys who were going to go try and recover as much as they could, including if her dad was still there, and no one seemed to know. So all that to say, it was a successful mission earlier in the week. I think they had to delay today due to weather on the mountain, and on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, the team of guys went up there and retrieved Mr. Martin's body. He was there. So he has been found, and Emily posted some really great pictures of him flying his airplane in our band group. So I thought that was really neat and very touching. And you could tell he loved flying. So this show will be in memory and in honor of Mr. Michael Martin. So hopefully you guys know a little bit about what's going on now. And yes, I know she and her family would certainly appreciate your prayers in an ongoing situation here where, more and more details are still trying to be worked out as far as what he was doing there and some other things. So I won't go into all that. But anyway, just suffice it to say they did find him, and hopefully their family can lay him to rest and try and get to the bottom of what happened. Hopefully there will be an actual investigation, which we don't know yet. There most likely will be, but it might take some time. So anyway, I wanted to bring that information to you guys, and yeah, she'll probably be here later, I'm guessing, but it's hard to say with everything kind of upside down in her world at the moment. So anyway, so hello to everyone in chat. Lots of great people in there, and let's take a look at the news. We've got lots to look at as usual, and several videos as well. I'm hoping my voice will hold out. I do know just from a self-diagnosis that I've been battling walking pneumonia the last 4 weeks, give or take a bit. So after I came back from my trip at the end of last year and first or second of this year, I wasn't feeling too well, and I wasn't really sick per se. I never had sinus issues or really anything more than a cough and tiredness and that type of thing. And come to find out that, just based on the symptoms, and again, a self-diagnosis, I didn't go see an actual doctor, I had walking pneumonia. And it says, best case scenario, you have it 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm kind of at the end of that and don't really want to go take antibiotics and all that. So I'll just ask you again this week to please bear with me with my voice, because it does kind of give out on me a little bit, and I have to cough or I have to take a drink or whatever. So I would just ask that you guys just forgive me for that. It's one of those things where I feel totally fine, and it just kind of sneaks up on me sometimes. Sir Marty's asking, do small planes have black boxes? That's a really great question. I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. I don't know. That's something maybe Miss Emily could ask or could answer for us. I don't know. If she's here later, I'll try and remember and come back to that question. But that's a really good question, Marty. My guess is it's probably only the larger planes, but it's really hard to say. I'm not a pilot or aviation expert by any means, so I have no idea. So anyway, let's take a look at the news. We've got much to cover as usual. So yeah, the first story here that I had pulled up, Groundhog Day gloom. Phil says more winter ahead, which we kind of touched on that earlier, and the whole thing with the groundhog is just really funny to me more than anything. It's not accurate, obviously, but it's not really meant to be. It's just supposed to be fun. So anyway, the first article I have pulled up, non-Groundhog Day related, is from Hal's website, HalTurnerRadioShow.com. This was updated this morning. Egypt is massing tanks on the border of Gaza at Rafah. And you can see there's a picture here, and then an ongoing aerial series as well. Let's see, it says Middle East woke up this morning to find Egypt massing tanks near the Rafah border crossing into Gaza. It's not yet known publicly if Egypt intends to enter Gaza, more as I get it, Hal says. And then about 3 a.m. Eastern this morning, he posted this, saying aerial photographs show that Egypt has deployed hundreds of armored vehicles and dozens of tanks near Rafah in violation of the Camp David Accord. So they almost look like toys there, but you can tell that's a real picture. The armored vehicles and tanks are apparently stationed in Zone C, a designation originating from the 1979 Camp David Accords, the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. Below is the image of the actual Camp David Accords map showing the zones. So they are in Zone C. According to the treaty, Egypt is only allowed to station 22,000 troops, tanks, and artillery pieces in Zone A, 4,000 infantry troops in Zone B, and only Egyptian civilian police and UN forces are allowed in Zone C. By stationing regular troops and even main battle tanks in Zone C, Egypt continues its subtle remilitarization of the Sinai Peninsula, which has gone largely under the radar. This comes in response to Israel's violation of the agreement after October 7th, when the IDF deployed tanks into Zone D, also known as the Philadelphia Axis. According to the Camp David Accords, Israel is not allowed to have tanks in Zone D, but the war in Gaza has been used as a pretext to violate this clause. Very handy, huh? And we saw the video leading into the show tonight talking about how Trump might very well want to be involved in, or at least have a hand in somehow, rebuilding Gaza, and he mentioned how bad it really is. And we're going to look at that a little closer tonight as well. It's something we talk about a lot on the show. But yeah, they are bombing them back to the Stone Age, and in fact have killed so many people there. And I don't even know if there is an official number. Last I saw, it was in the 40,000 range, but I think it's really more in the 100,000s range. So I don't know, but I do know that it is quite the mess and doesn't look to be getting any better anytime soon. And then you probably heard the whole thing with Panama lately, and I don't mean the Van Halen song. I mean the actual country in the canal, Panama Canal. Panama agrees to not renew the China Belt and Road Initiative. We'll try to cancel it early. President of Panama, Molino, has announced that following his meeting yesterday with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Panama has decided not to renew its 2017 memo with China. I wonder why. A little arm twisting there, do you think? At least financial arm twisting regarding their Belt and Road Initiative. Moreover, Panama told Secretary Rubio that they will look towards voiding their agreements with the Chinese government prior to their end dates set for 2027 and 2028. So they're going to try and get out a little early because Trump and team say so. Pretty interesting, huh? Yeah, we'll see where that all heads. Who knows? So let's see. We have those two articles on Hal's site, and then Need to know.news, Washington, D.C., American Airlines plane and military helicopter crash, 67 people dead. This has been the big story all week, really. And then followed that up with yet another plane crash a couple of nights ago as well. So that was a smaller plane, but we'll look at both of these things on the broadcast tonight. But wow, what is going on here? Washington, D.C., 64 people aboard an American Airlines jet died on Wednesday, January 29th after it collided with a military Black Hawk helicopter in flight near Reagan Washington National Airport. 3 U.S. troops were also killed. Several members of the U.S. figure skating community were on board the flight and were killed. Paul Joseph Watson takes note of curious circumstances around the crash and asks why the helicopter was flying dark near a busy airport and why did it fail to take evasive action when Black Hawk helicopters have adept maneuverability? That is the question. Experts are baffled over how traffic collision sensors failed. The FAA, for a decade, beginning in the Obama era, has been turning away qualified applicants for air traffic control jobs because they were not diverse enough, which we've heard a lot about, the whole DEI thing, which may or may not have played into this. My guess is it probably did to some level, but most people, I think, can look at a screen and see when two things are going to collide, so I don't know. There was a lawsuit filed against the FAA in April 2024 over discrimination in hiring and rejecting over 1,000 qualified air traffic controller applicants based on race, which is the opposite of what they're supposed to do. But of course, with DEI, it's the opposite that counts. That's all they really care about anyway. So here's the video with Paul Joseph Watson mentioned in the article here. Trump blamed the control tower. He also blamed DEI to some degree, I think. So we've got some video embedded here in this article and quite a bit of information. I'm sure many of you guys have been following this all week, so not to belabor the point too much, we will look at it a little closer as we move on. I've got various other articles on other sites pulled up with additional information about this, so we will definitely be readdressing that soon. Trump administration already fined 75,000 missing migrant children in first week. I'm wondering, though, if it... Let's take a look at this, but I would imagine they found them on paper. Let's see if I'm right on that. It says the Trump administration has already located about 75 to 80,000 of the estimated 300,000 migrant children, and it was 325,000 migrant children, and that was the official number. So again, the official number is usually just a fraction of the actual number, but we'll keep moving here. It says that 300,000 migrant children who've gone missing since illegally crossing the U.S. southern border under Biden's term. It is unknown how many of these children may have been trafficked or for sex or for labor. Democrats have been silent on this tragedy. Yeah, because a lot of them are involved in some way or form, whether it's getting financial kickbacks or in other ways. And I think you know what I mean. Former head of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, which in my opinion, he's one of the biggest criminals walking the planet at this point, acknowledged that hundreds of thousands of migrant children were unaccounted for, and he admitted that DHS had received reports of children being trafficked. However, he said that it was not the responsibility of his DHS. No, of course not. Why would he take responsibility? According to the Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General, more than 291,000 unaccompanied migrant children had not, as of May last year, received a notice to appear in court. Additionally, more than 32,000 unaccompanied migrant children got a notice to appear but then failed to show up for immigration court hearings. Yeah. Not too surprised. Yeah, and then some of the people that were getting court dates, they pushed the court dates out to like 2030, 2032, and so on and so forth. So, not good. So, anyway, that is one of the most recent articles on needtoknow.news. A couple more from that site. LA Mayor Karen Bass, Pacific Palisades will be rebuilt by an outside consultant after the fires. An outside consultant. Yeah, they're probably consulting with the WEF. President Trump visited LA last week and attended a town hall meeting with LA Mayor Karen Bass, he urged her to allow homeowners access to their property and to clean up the mess themselves following the devastating fires. Yeah, we played some video and talked about that last week. She argued with him and said that it would be done as soon as possible, but the property owners were told it would take 18 months. Her microphone was removed. Watch the second video below. Most of the property owners were only able to access their property for the first time on Monday after direct intervention from Trump. Mayor Bass announced earlier this week that the city of LA is planning to hire an outside consultant to handle a significant rebuilding contract for areas devastated by this month's Palisades fire, meaning January. The decision was made without any consultation with local residents or any process of input from those affected. Steve Soboroff, who was appointed by Bass, said that the outside firm will perform damage assessment, monitor air and water quality, and interact with various federal agencies and ensure that the city gets as much federal reimbursement as possible. Locals have had virtually no input into any of the decisions currently being made by city and state officials. Trump appointed Ambassador Richard Grenell to search for a candidate or a committee to oversee all that federal money sent to California to rebuild after the fire is spent properly. So I think that's good. However, with Bass and the rest of them in control, I do not think the outcome for the people that live there will be good. So anyway, wow, that is very crazy. So yeah, I heard that they're going to, I think I've got an article pulled up on this, but they're going to have some of it as some of the housing that will have to be, I guess they're probably going to rezone much of it, and we know that they want to build a smart city in that area. So I'm wondering if they're going to have another safe space there for many of the illegals, you suppose. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, it doesn't look like anything's going to happen very quickly. Okay, next need to know .news article. Watch unhinged Liz Warren badgers RFK Jr. during wild confirmation hearing. You guys may have seen this. I don't know. I wasn't going to necessarily play the video, but it's on here. It's embedded in the article here. Robert Kennedy Jr. is currently going through the confirmation hearings to become the head of the HHS, and senators who are funded by Big Pharma became very confrontational. Yeah, that's to say the least. Senator Sanders has received over $1.4 million, and again, that's official number, while Senator Elizabeth Warren, also known as Pocahontas, has received $821,941 from the drug makers. Senator Warren badgered RFK and tried to get him to commit to not take any compensation for suing drug companies, and he accused her of trying to stop him from suing the drug companies. The hearing was quite lively, with other senators trying to discredit him. RFK's former running mate, former partner, Nicole Shanahan, threatened senators that if they vote against him, she will fund opposition in their next primary races to oust them from office. Yeah, I retweeted that tweet from Ms. Shanahan. It was very enlightening, very interesting, for sure. So yeah, that did come out. We'll see what happens. This is the tweet right here, actually. This is it. And then this is Bernie Sanders. It says Bobby Kennedy just lit up Bernie Sanders. Bobby says, in 2020, you were the single largest receiver of pharmaceutical money, 1.5 million. And Bernie says, yeah, out of 200 million. So I guess that makes it okay. It was only 1.5 million out of 200. Too funny. Then there's some Zero Hedge article bits and pieces in this article too. So anyway, it's worth a look if you guys need to know.news. And then the last one from that site, Trump signs executive order to reinstate service members who were fired for refusing the Approximately 8,000 troops were discharged because of Biden's mandate. Some troops sued over the mandate and faced backlash. President Trump's new executive order titled Reinstating Service Members Discharged under the military's mandate reinstated all members of the military who were fired for refusing and entitling them to receive full back pay, benefits, plus bonus payments. And or any other compensation. Peggy Hall explains how some employees were able to avoid taking the mandated leave through religious exemptions and demanding accommodation. She criticized the for being labeled experimental because it can later be claimed that it had been tested and proven, quote unquote, proven to be safe and effective. So anyway, there's more info on this site, including a video. This may be this is the Peggy Hall Healthy American channel video embedded there in that particular article. So good info there. Technocracy.news, always a site we look at. 3 most recent articles. Gen Z ready to embrace dictatorship in Britain after losing trust in democracy. It says it is the young adults who will readily embrace technocracy over democracy or other forms of representative government. In Britain's case, the citizenry has been racked with political corruption, crime, and a failing legal system and multiculturalism. The problem concerns trust. Gen Z is accepting radicalism and authoritarianism amid growing uncertainty on who to trust. Britain leads the world in societal breakdown, and we see the same symptoms, in America. So that is one of the articles on technocracy.news. And then this one, arch technocrat Mark Andreessen says AI goal is to crash human wages. Technocrats like Mark Andreessen, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast pretty recently. Mark Andreessen are running amok in the Trump administration. How many years have I warned, this is the author here talking, just how bat guano crazy these technocrats are. Listen to the words coming out of their mouth. Americans derailed the technocracy movement in the 40s, and we must reject them again before they get a chance to drive us all into extinction. So yes, Mark Andreessen is who's being talked about here in this article. And then it begins, OpenAI debuts ChatGPT Gov for governments. Sam Altman beats out Elon Musk to provide the first full-blown ChatGPT to state and federal governments. Trump's January 23rd executive order on AI dropped regulations and handed over control to David Sachs, the special advisor for AI and crypto. All government entities will be saturated with AI by the end of Trump's term. The technocrats are in charge. Scientific dictatorship is straight ahead. Yeah, and as we talked about last week, I don't think Trump really understands the technical aspects of any of this stuff. Not saying that he's doing the right thing. I'm not. I mean, he's in the wrong here, but I don't think he's in way over his head. Let's just put it that way. Not that that's an excuse for anything. He needs to investigate it further, but he's got some real criminals in high places at this point. So Sam Altman's definitely one of them. He's who's pictured here with Trump. So that is not good. Not good. To keep our eyes on what's going on there. One of the top articles on reclaimthenet.org. FBI nominee Kash Patel vows to end censorship collusion, slams wiretaps, and pledges Section 230 work. And Intelligence Community Directive 406 expands U.S. spy agencies' ties with big tech. So again, those are the top articles on reclaimthenet.org. It's a pretty good site. Mostly tech-related type stuff on that site. And then on Liberty Beacon, there is another article here that is, I think, based around this video by Peggy Hall again. RFK Jr. Senate hearings reveal a wolf in sheep's clothing, ? RFK Jr. Senate hearings reveal a wolf in sheep's clothing. Peggy Hall. Yeah, we'll see where this is going. I don't really think he's hiding anything. I think he is clearly a Democrat who was disenfranchised with the actual Democrat Party, and he hasn't really changed, from what I could tell, hasn't really changed what he is been saying all these years. He really does want to try and make America healthy again, and he knew that his best path to that was with Trump. So I think that's what's going on. I don't think he's all of a sudden a conservative, and for a lot of these people who are criticizing him for flip-flopping or for not having these conservative views, well, he's always been a Democrat. Look at his family. It is the Kennedys, after all. So anyway, that is one of the articles in the spotlight on the libertybeacon.com. ICE ramping up arrests and deportations of criminal aliens in Trump's first 2 weeks. It says ICE officers in Denver arrested an illegal Mexican national on January 30th in Colorado who was previously charged with assault and kidnapping. ICE also arrested 4 criminal aliens, each with convictions or charges related to sexual assault in Washington state this month. So it just goes on. There's so many of these people here. Millions and millions. So they're starting to try and crank up the amount that they can deport and get them out of here. But, obviously it's going to take a very long time. So they've definitely got their work cut out for them. Wow. Now, some bad news here. If you guys didn't already see this, many of you guys probably know who Dr. Francis Boyle is. I always liked him. He has passed away. He died on January the 30th. I want to say he was 74. But anyway, it says, editor note here from Liberty Beacon, we published some of Dr. Boyle's declarations about both. So there's some links there. Dr. Boyle, who drafted the Biological Weapons Act, said in an explosive interview that the 2019 Wuhan coronavirus is an offensive weapon and that the WHO already knows about it. Yeah, he was saying that right out of the gate. Here's the archived version of what Dr. Boyle had to say back in February of 2020. The first lockdowns occurred in March of 2020. That it was lab-produced, he says, Wuhan, from a BSL-4 lab, which are designed to develop offensive biological warfare weapons with DNA genetic engineering. So there is a transcript of some of that conversation here. And then some embedded tweets as well. So that's that. Dr. Boyle is no longer with us. He has made the jump to hyperspace, as they say. So, and then I got to talk to him one time. He was interviewed by Richard on Lost Arts Radio, which is a show that I produce. And I was looking to see if the show's still around. This is it here. I did find it. It's on our Mixcloud page. It's audio only, but it is there. And I will link to that in the Substack post that I put out on Tuesday. So it is available. I'm glad. It's a fairly short interview, but that was back. This says 8 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long. But he was kind enough to give us a little bit of his time, and that was back when the whole Zika virus was coming around the first time. So anyway, we'll be sure and link to that. And it's a good interview. So Dr. Boyle, even though he's no longer with us, his work will certainly live on. He did some great work. All right, let's see. Found this Yahoo article. USDA ordered to scrub climate change from websites. USDA Agriculture Department employees have been ordered to delete landing pages discussing climate change across agency websites and document climate change preferences for further review, according to an internal email obtained by Politico. How about that? The directive from the USDA's Office of Communications, whose authenticity was validated by 3 people, could affect information across dozens of programs, including climate-smart agriculture initiatives, USDA climate hubs, and Forest Service information regarding wildfires, the frequency and severity of which scientists have linked to hotter, drier conditions fueled by climate change. I would take out the words climate change and substitute geoengineering. Fueled by geoengineering. Yeah, and then it says, and it is reminiscent of moves made during the first Trump administration to remove references to climate change from federal government websites. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes, but obviously geoengineering is not going to stop because the geoengineers don't answer to Trump or anyone else. Maybe the bankers, but that's about it. So that's an article from Politico on Yahoo. And then this one as well. Pacific Palisades rebuilding must include low-income housing, which is something that I mentioned a little bit ago. It says Los Angeles law. This is just an intro to this particular article. It's on the Washington Examiner, but I'll read the first little bit here. It says, housing and land use experts say Los Angeles city law could require the Pacific Palisades area to include affordable housing to replace older buildings and for new buildings where owners cannot definitively prove that their rental apartments had no low-income renters in the past 5 years. Low income, Los Angeles, and it's right by Malibu. I wonder what that low income would be. The new Resident Protections Ordinance, taking effect soon, requires that in higher opportunity areas and moderate opportunity areas, sounds very legalistic, doesn't it? Units deemed or presumed to be occupied by persons or families above the lower income category shall be replaced with low income units. The RPO applies to units subject to a form of rent or price control through a local government's valid exercise of its police power. That does not sound good. Anyway, yeah, that's what I mentioned a little bit ago, that price controls and more specifically low-income housing, my guess is probably for as many illegals as they can cram in there. So there will be your new Pacific Palisades for those keeping track at home. All right, and then the CNN article, kind of following with what we were talking about with the USDA, the EPA workers have received emails warning that their employment could be terminated. The Environmental Pollution Agency, more than 1,100 employees at the EPA, received notice this week that they were deemed to be on probationary status and warning that they could be fired immediately. How about that? Probationary employees receiving the email have been working at the agency for less than a year. The emails began to go out on late Wednesday afternoon. It says the same message will be sent to other agency workforces, a White House official said, across the U.S. government. The latest data shows that there are more than 220,000 employees on probation. Wow. And so will they get fired, you suppose? I bet a lot of them will. Who knows how many of that 220,000. But yeah, you can tell when the Biden administration was saying all those years how they were creating jobs. Oh, look at all of the jobs we created. And, you know, it came out that that was a lie. But the jobs that they did create was only in bigger government. That's all. So who knows how many of these people were hired by the fake Biden administration. Anyway, there's quite a bit here on this article if you guys want to have a look at this. We'll link to this and all the rest of them that I talk about tonight on Substack. So make sure you're on that list. And then this Threadreader app article I thought was interesting. Although it's a little technical, I wanted to mention it. And then for you guys who like to get into looking at things like coding and things like that, you might want to take a look. I think it's kind of interesting. It says deleted GSA's tech arm, a far-left agency that viciously subverted Trump during his first term, surrendered after an Elon Musk deputy took over. It deleted huge swaths of code dedicated to virtue signaling rather than its mission, such as its inclusion bot, quote unquote, that lectured staff. Inclusion bot. So this is what we're talking about here. So these are lines of code here for who knows what exactly. Could be different apps, could be for a website, could be for who knows what. This particular thing looks like it might be part of a website. So that's some lines of code here. And then says Elon Musk, federal government-wide computer office, and then it says at 18F, which to this day has a transgender flag as its logo, also deleted, where its employee handbook instructed employees to explain what they look like at each meeting so blind people could know if there was sufficient racial diversity. So this is the code that required that. So blind people could know, because they're listening, if there was sufficient racial diversity. So again, that's been deleted. GitHub logs show it deleted how employees should only participate in events where, quote, there are no all-white or all-male panels, end quote, where there is a code of conduct with an incident response plan, quote unquote, and participants have a place to share their pronouns. And it says, and ended racial segregation. And it's talking about all these different racial segregation sort of terms like Latinx, Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders. That's another group. Working while black. That's another group, whatever that is. Shalom Jews is another group. People with disabilities is another group. And the final group, not your dude. Not your dude. So anyways, there you go. The code is being deleted. I think that's good news. That's on Threadreader. All right, and then many of you guys have been following this story with the helicopter and airplane airliner crashing. So I just thought I would bring up a few of the articles I came across. New York Post article, a couple of those actually. Army helicopter was warned about American Airlines plane twice, with final alert coming just seconds before the DC crash. Black Hawk helicopter that crashed into American Airlines plane was alerted to the plane's presence by air control twice, the first time at least 2 minutes before the deadly crash, according to Washington Post report. Aviation experts reviewed Wednesday night's radio transmissions obtained by WAPO and said that a soldier on the Black Hawk requested visual separation, quote unquote, so that the helicopter crew could maintain a safe distance from the plane, which it could see. Both times the request was approved by air traffic control. At 8:48, about 12 seconds after the second air traffic control tower alert, the helicopter and passenger plane collided. Which, we've all seen the footage many, many times at this point. It says, according to the aviation experts who reviewed the recordings, these warnings show that the helicopter crew had plenty of time to react and avoid the plane, but may not have because they saw something else in their line of vision, but not the American Airlines flight they eventually crashed into. A minute-by-minute breakdown of the fatal DC plane crash.
A deadly mid-air collision over Washington, D.C. sent an American Airlines jet and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter plunging into the icy Potomac River. The crash happened just before 8:49 p.m. as the plane was approaching Reagan National Airport for landing. Here's a breakdown of the moments leading up to the disaster. 5:18 p.m. American Airlines Flight 5342, a CRJ 700, departs from Wichita, Kansas, bound for Washington, D.C. 8:39 and 40 seconds, an Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter takes off from Fort Belvoir, Virginia, with 3 people on board, flying up the Potomac River. 8:40 p.m. The passenger jet begins its final approach to Reagan National's runway 33 from the south. 8:48 and 38 seconds. Air traffic control radios the helicopter, asking if they see the CRJ. The pilot confirms visual contact and requests visual separation, indicating an effort to adjust flight path. 8:48 and 48 seconds. The 2 aircraft collide at about 300 feet. The jet was traveling at approximately 145 miles per hour. 8:48 and 56 seconds. Air traffic controllers react in real time, with one heard asking, "Did you see that?" The collision sent both aircraft into the Potomac. All 67 people on board the jet are now believed to be dead. Investigators are examining the crash timeline, including whether communication issues played a role in the disaster.
Yeah, I think it was 67 people total, 64 on the airline, and then the 3 military people, I think. Anyway, this article here is saying Olympic hopeful skating sisters seen beaming on an eerie photo before the plane crash. So this is kind of one of those things where you're putting faces to this tragedy that happened. And I don't know if you guys have seen this before. This is the first time I'd seen it. This says a proud mom aboard the doomed flight snapped a photo of her 2 beaming ice skater daughters, both Olympic hopefuls, just before it took off from Kansas on Wednesday. Donna Livingston captured Everly, 14, and Alita, 11, as well as herself and her husband Peter, just before takeoff, and sent the eerie photos to another U.S. figure skating team mom. Everly's coach, Inna Volyanskaya, can be seen in the row behind them, back here. Figure skating sisters. So this is the mom and dad, I guess. Donna and Peter. Snapped a selfie, and you can see more people on the plane back there. The family of 4 and coach were among those killed when the plane collided with the military helicopter and plunged into the Potomac. They were my little babies, a tearful Jin-Ah Longerbeam, who received the photo of the sisters from Donna, told ABC News on Friday. Longerbeam said she knew the family since the girls were little rugrats and that they called her son Wolf Jin a brother. So, and then there's some Halloween pictures and some family pictures of them on the ice and so forth. So sad. Anyway, I just wanted to pass that along just so you can kind of put some faces to this tragedy. I think that's always important to do. So anyway, yeah, very, very sad. And then there's this article. Captain Rebecca Lobach is identified as the third Black Hawk pilot who died in the collision with the American Airlines flight. So this is her. U.S. Army has identified the third pilot of the H-60 Black Hawk helicopter that collided with the American Airlines passenger jet. Captain Rebecca Lobach, 28, from Durham, North Carolina, was one of 3 soldiers aboard the chopper that crashed into the jet as it was coming into land. The Army had initially refused to identify Lobach at the request of her family, but the decision to release her name came at the request of and in coordination with the family, according to a statement released by the Army. Lobach had worked as a White House aide during the Biden administration and had served as an aviation officer in the Army from July 2019 until January 2025. So this is her. And many of you guys may have seen pictures, some of these pictures already. But Daily Mail usually has some pretty good pictures on articles that they post. So anyway, so that is one of the pilots in the, you can see her here with Biden. So wow, that is wild. Anyway, that was one of the other articles that I came across. And this one on Threadreader app says, number 1, this military helicopter allegedly struck an American Airlines flight intentionally at high speed. Number 2, the Helo's flight path had 3 close calls with other aircraft prior to the collision. It appears like it was intentionally trying to hit the other aircraft but repeatedly missed. It says, was the helicopter piloted or remote controlled? Was the airline intentionally brought down or accidentally? And then it says, this Lockheed Martin helicopter can fly itself. So that particular model, there's a video here of the helicopter on autopilot, literally, with no one flying it. It says, did CNN, this is another interesting little twist, did CNN publish the crash hours before the crash happened? It sure looks like it. Reminds me of the third 9/11 tower that was reported being collapsed before it actually collapsed. So CNN had posted this article. It says, CNN from 5 hours ago, FAA issues ground stop at Reagan National Airport after plane crash in the Potomac. Anyway, they're saying here that there's something amiss with the time of this particular article being published. I don't know. That can definitely happen on web servers and postings, and depending on your content management system on the website. You can see here in this video that he's controlling that helicopter from an iPad. Wow. Autonomy will revolutionize contested, whatever it said, with our Matrix flight autonomy system. Wow. Thumbs up. Lockheed Martin. Also, as my good friend Mr. Dane would say, Lockheed Martin is neck deep in weather modification patents, geoengineering patents. So they are a very interesting company. Let's just say that. So anyway, yeah, as far as the timing goes, and did they post this before it actually happened? I don't know if I buy that. I'm not exactly sure where they're going with that. I mean, that kind of thing can definitely happen on web servers and time zones and weird stuff like that. So I'm not really convinced on that. But was it intentional? Did it happen from a remotely controlled helicopter? Well, we know supposedly, we think we know that there were some pilots, that there were some military officers that were extracted from the wreckage. So it appears that somebody was aboard, and there was some communication apparently as well. So the question is, what happened? Was there some sort of remote takeover of the chopper somehow? I mean, did someone take over the control and the communication to prevent them from calling out saying, hey, we've lost control or something like that, and then flew it directly into the jet? We just don't know. We don't know. I'm not sure that we're ever going to really find out for sure. I hope we do, but anyway, all that to say, I wanted to mention, could this possibly be Operation Northwoods 2.0? Because I say that because we saw yet another plane crash just a few days later. And when was the last plane crash you even remember? I can't think of any really recently. I mean, other than small planes where jets have gone down. And yet we've had two already in Trump's first, almost 2 weeks in office. We've had two plane crashes already. So it got me thinking, I remember hearing about Operation Northwoods from back in the 60s. And I thought, well, maybe they're trying to create this situation where they have planes dropping out of the sky. And instead of blaming the communists like Operation Northwoods was, like that was supposed to be, then you could feasibly blame the Trump administration and Trump and his people. I don't know, just a thought. So is it Operation Northwoods 2.0? If you're not familiar with Operation Northwoods, it says it was a proposed false flag operation that originated within the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. government in 1962. The proposals called for CIA operatives to both stage and commit acts of terrorism against American military and civilian targets and blame them on the Cuban government and use them to justify a war against Cuba. The possibilities detailed in the document included the remote control of civilian aircraft. How about that? Remote control of civilian aircraft in 1962. Imagine how perfected it is now. Which would be secretly repainted as U.S. Air Force planes, a fabricated shoot-down of a U.S. Air Force fighter aircraft off the coast of Cuba, the possible assassination of Cuban immigrants. We've heard an awful lot of talk about immigrants lately, haven't we? Sinking boats of Cuban refugees in the high seas and blowing up a U.S. ship, and orchestrating terrorism in the U.S. cities, which the Democrats are openly calling for civil war at this point. I don't know if you've heard the clips, but it's crazy. But, could this be Northwoods 2.0? I just thought of that, earlier today, and it's like, or maybe yesterday, and it's like, man, this is crazy, because I could see where instead of blaming the communists, the communists are still running things in this country at the top of our government, many of them, stay behind networks and so forth. So maybe they're trying to blame Trump for all of this. So we'll see. I mean, if there's more airplane crashes in the next few weeks, I think we'll have our answer. Hopefully that will not happen. I really do hope that is not the case. But I just thought that was very interesting, and the timing is certainly suspect. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier as far as Israel and what's going on in Gaza. You can kind of see just from this video, Israel demolishes dozens of buildings in West Bank. I would say, yeah, all at once. Of course, this is West Bank, though. This is even separate from Gaza, but they're trying to expand their territory, as we all know. The operation has resulted in a massive forced displacement, according to the Palestinian news agency. The IDF demolished dozens of buildings in the city of Jenin in the north part of the West Bank on Sunday. Videos that have surfaced on social media show the structures being destroyed by a series of powerful explosions. The move is part of a, quote, counter-terrorist operation, end quote. And who are the terrorists exactly? It says launched by West Jerusalem nearly 2 weeks ago. According to the Jerusalem Post, the destruction of the buildings was ordered by Defense Minister Katz, who has reportedly demanded that any building linked to, quote, terrorist activity be obliterated. So there's their blanket description here. Anything that they can call terrorist activity, which is just existing, they can just call it that and then blow it up and kill everyone in the building, which is what they've been doing in Gaza. So anyway, and then there's more video here. Videos that surfaced on social media show a series of explosions rocking what appeared to be a single neighborhood in Jenin, with plumes of smoke and dust rising in the air as powerful blasts rocked the area. So Israel is not done yet. Not done. So that is not good. But anyway, that is unfortunately what the Israelis and the IDF is all about. And speaking of which, this is a story that Hal Turner reported on a few days ago on his radio show, and it's also on his website. And I would urge you, if you're going to watch this video, use extreme caution. I'm not going to play it. I can't play it. It's a good way to get my live stream shut down. But I will describe, based on what Hal says here, what happened. It says Savage IDF, meaning Israeli Defense Force, Beast Sniper, shooting children in West Bank. So this young boy here, who you can barely see on the screen. Here, let me turn the chat off for just a second. You can see him. He's holding his chest. See? That young boy is 12 to 14 years old, somewhere in there. Says this video has emerged showing a 12 to 14-year-old Palestinian boy standing unarmed, of course, on a sidewalk in West Bank in Palestine when an Israeli sniper shoots him in the back. The boy goes down and screams for his mama. He writhes in pain with blood pouring from his back. This video is so gut-wrenching to watch, and no one comes to help him for several minutes because everyone else is frightened of the sniper. The poor little child cries out over and over for help, but no help comes for several minutes until passers-by in a car stop and pick him up. Which, from there, we don't know. We don't know what happened to him. He was shot in the lower back area. The sniper who did this is little more than a savage pig beast and qualifies as the lowest form of life on this planet, lower than rodents. This soldier is not of God. No one who is of God could do something like this. He is absolutely satanic. There are so many others over there, including the phony Christians over here, who back them. You know who you are. Yeah, actually, they probably don't know who they are. They think they're supporting the right side by supporting Israel. Well, there's your Israel for you. They murder little kids. This is just one of probably many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that they've killed. So I just wanted to point this out. If you guys want to watch it, the video is there. Obviously, I can't play it, but it is sickening what the Israelis are doing, the IDF and Netanyahu. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. What they are doing is just beyond evil. Anyway, Trump vows to absolutely impose tariffs on the EU. Brussels has treated Washington so terribly, the U.S. president has complained. Trump announced his intention to impose tariffs on the EU, citing unfair treatment in trade practices. This follows the implementation of a 25% duty on imports from Mexico and Canada and 10% on Chinese goods, effective yesterday. The EU has been bracing for possible trade restrictions under the new U.S. administration for months. Trump has threatened several times to impose tariffs on the EU unless specific conditions are met. In December, Trump demanded that Brussels reduce its trade deficit with the U.S. by significantly increasing purchases of American oil and gas. And my guess is they didn't do it. So anyway, yeah, we've got a tariff coming on the EU and one already implemented on China, Mexico, and Canada. I heard that at a recent hockey game in Canada, where you have a Canadian team playing an American team, when that happens in hockey, they play both national anthems. They play the Canadian national anthem because they're in Canada. They start with that. And then after that, then they play the Star Spangled Banner. I heard that there were a lot of boos on the Star Spangled Banner version of the anthem when it was sung at that recent hockey game. And that would be why, because of the tariffs being imposed. I just think it's somewhat funny and ridiculous, actually, but we'll see where it goes. I don't know if tariffs are really going to make that much difference or not, or and then again, it might be the thing that this country needs. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. So, I mean, you got lots of people out there on both sides saying you ought to be great or you ought to be terrible. It really just depends on mostly if you're a Trump supporter or not, I think, whether or not you think it's terrible or great. Personally, I have no idea. I don't really know what to expect just because we haven't really had, that sort of focus. We know that was what the founding fathers, a lot of them embraced the idea of tariffs, and there was no such thing as income taxes for a long, long time until 1913, right? So theoretically, if Trump gets the tariff thing to work, he's saying he's going to do away with the IRS. So we will see. That could be really good news. Really good news. But we'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, we have a lot of time left in this administration, even if Trump doesn't make it that far. I think that they will carry on. Whoever is next in charge, whether it's JD or whoever, will carry on. So I'm hoping, though, that he will stay around for a while yet. So we'll see what happens. All right, and then CBS to provide unedited version of Harris's word salad interview. You guys might remember that. Trump has accused the network of tipping the scales in favor of his Democrat rival ahead of last year's elections. It's funny, so many people have already forgotten that Harris was the other person on the ticket, because I've heard several people recently just talk about, including Trump himself, talking about when he was running against Biden and if Biden would have won. Well, there was a little person that was in between there named Kamala Harris, or Kamala, or whatever her name was, Harris, that was on the ticket that Trump was actually running against. I think so many people have already forgotten who she is, which I think is hilarious. CBS News has agreed to provide the U.S. Federal Communications Commission with the unedited version of a controversial interview with former Democrat presidential nominee Kamala Harris. The broadcast is at the center of Trump's $10 billion lawsuit, $10 billion, alleging that the network deceptively edited footage to benefit Harris in the run-up to the election, which of course they did. You can see the edits. You can tell when it happens. So anyway, we'll see what happens. My guess is those files will just remarkably become corrupted. They just, we got the file. We didn't delete the file. We have the file. But it's just corrupted. It won't play anymore. We're sorry. Just a guess. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see what happens. All right, and then this article on MSN, top paid federal employee leaving a $10.5 million job. $10.5 million bucks. No, it's not Anthony Fauci. After first term, Trump said, "We are getting rid of him." The TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority CEO Jeff Lyash, the highest paid federal employee. Why is he even a federal employee? With a compensation package of $10.5 million bucks per year, abruptly announced on Friday that he was retiring 11 days after the return of Trump, who during his first term slammed Lyash's ridiculous pay and vowed to fire him. So he got a few more years at $10.5 million bucks per year. I think he's probably doing okay. I don't think he's going to go hungry, do you? Sounds like Lyash got doged, a senior administration official told the Post, referring to Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency initiative to rein in allegedly wasteful federal spending. The TVA rep denied that Lyash was departing either in response to or to get ahead of pressure from Trump's team after 6 years on the job. So they're saying, no, that's not why. But of course it is. So, good riddance. Tennessee Valley Authority CEO, which I have no idea why he's a government employee, but $10.5 million bucks. What could he possibly do that's worth that? I ask. Anyway, very strange, but I say good riddance. All right, peoplesvoice.tv. I usually just go through the top headlines on page 1 here, so let's just look at those. CIA report confirms Nishnyandiva was bioengineered by the Pentagon in 2017. Nishnyandiva was bioengineered by the Pentagon in 2017. Putin, European elites are terrified Trump is defeating their New World Order. That is true. That is true. We saw that with the response from people at Davos. People declaring that, yeah, Trump is the winner. Of course, they're just going to regroup and come at it from a different angle. That's what they always do. They're not giving up. And then this one, DNC Vice Chair David Hogg vows to designate the NRA as a terrorist group, which he is about as anti-gun as you can get. But yeah, he's going to try and designate the NRA as a terrorist group, at least to the DNC. The Democrat National Committee's new vice chairman, David Hogg. Too funny. Australian police to arrest government officials involved in the NRA genocide. So we'll see. We'll see if that actually happens. It says there's a rebellion growing within Australia's law enforcement, one that has the corrupt elites looking over their shoulders. So we'll see. Trump envoy, White House wants Zelensky to hold elections. That might be nice. Yes, he's been a dictator since May sometime last year. So they literally stopped all elections and he's just stayed in power. He's a dictator. So Trump is saying, you need to restart your elections. Pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, the U.S. has held elections during various wars. So why don't they? It's because they don't want their puppet to be removed. Rubio, Ukraine conflict must end now, claiming Kiev could defeat Moscow was a lie. Well, that's true. Moscow always had them beat. The moment they crossed from the Russian border into Ukraine, it was over. It was only a question of time. Alberta government calls for an immediate halt of the deadly Alberta. So, wow. In Canada, Tony Blair urges UK government to roll out Bill Gates' digital ID. Isn't that nice? So he's all for it. But he is big-time globalist, of course. Former Prime Minister Blair has urged the British government to roll out Bill Gates' digital ID system in order to flush out anti-establishment populists. So they're ready for the digital ID, I guess. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But you guys know what I think about who's in charge over there. So it's very possible. President Trump vows to kill every last ISIS terrorist. How about that? I thought he was the president that's going to be known for peace. And I don't think anybody's told him that it was us that funded and started ISIS, the U.S. But he may not know that. President Trump has announced that he's ordered airstrikes on ISIS terrorists and has told the U.S. military not to stop until every last terrorist has been killed. Wow. That's something Israel would be very happy about. Trump's State Department drops the T from LGBT on official documents and declares transgenderism is obsolete. How about that? Trump administration is taking a firm stance against transgender ideology, making its position unmistakably clear. U.S. State Department has quietly removed the term LGBT from its official website, replacing it with LGB. So they lost a letter. They've lost some of their rights by losing the T, because there are no such thing actually as transgender people, and that's true. Anyway, good to see. So you have Trump doing, it's this whole dichotomy thing. You have Trump doing some really, really good things, and then there's some other things that are just unbelievably bad. So, and I mentioned that several times on the show already. And we're only a couple of weeks into his second term. Netanyahu thanks Trump for executive order on fighting anti-Semitism. Yes, there was an EO on fighting anti-Semitism. So being critical of Israel, something Trump does not want. Says Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu formally thanked Trump on Thursday for signing an Israel First, America Last executive order calling on the Department of Justice to prosecute Americans for so-called anti-Semitism. And let me guess, they get to define what is anti-Semitic, right? So that is very totalitarian and anti-First Amendment, if you ask me. Trump order will marshal all federal resources to fight anti-Semitism and deport anti-Semites. So even if you're from here, if you're an anti-Semite, you're going to get deported. Yeah, watch the Noahide laws, Kathy says. Totally agree. Yeah, I could see Trump would definitely think the Noahide laws would be a a great idea, I'm sure. We'll see. But I could definitely see that happen. Florida State Senator Randy Fine, who celebrated Israel killing an American, wins congressional primary. This was not the enemy. White House says New Jersey drones were authorized by the FAA for research. So we had the whole drone thing going on back in December, I guess it was. The mystery drones that we were told late last year were launched from an Iranian mothership off the east coast of the U.S. were actually authorized to fly by the FAA for research and other various reasons. So, the whole thing was a lie, which, not a surprise, but you had several officials from the U.S. government come on to various talk shows and say they had it for sure. They could swear by their sources and jumping up and down saying that this is what it was. It was the Iranian mothership, all of which to try and get America to attack Iran. So if you ask me, those people were bought and paid for by Israel, because we all know Israel and a few of the people, at least at the top in our Congress, certainly want their war with Iran. So, of course, they're blaming the drones on Iran. But now we know the truth. They were just authorized to fly by the FAA. Yeah. Anyway, there's quite a few articles here on information liberation, some new ones there. And then WNG this week, a couple articles I pulled up from the SIFT on their site. Over 40 bodies pulled from the Potomac. Some victims have been identified. Authorities continue searching for the bodies of the 67 people killed in the jetliner crash with the helicopter. Rescue teams have pulled 41 bodies from the Potomac. So they've identified 28 of the recovered bodies. Wow. Anyway, so the recovery is ongoing. So, and then next article on the SIFT, and I opened up here to take a look at tariffs against China and others go into effect this weekend, White House says. Yeah, as officially it was yesterday. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and I must say, it's so nice to be able to listen to an American woman who knows how to speak and doesn't need to have everything written down on cue cards or in a book. She can answer questions that are given to her right off the cuff. It's amazing. And she doesn't look like a demonic Cabbage Patch doll like the last one did. Anyway, I must say, it's a welcome change. So White House Press Secretary Leavitt said on Friday that 25% tariffs against Mexico and Canada and a 10% tariff against China will go into effect on Saturday, the 1st, shortly after his election. Then President-elect Trump threatened to impose the tariffs if the three countries didn't take steps to fight illegal drug trafficking and immigration into the U.S. And he's kept his word on that. He's already imposed the tariffs. So anyway, that's pretty interesting, but that is on WNG.org. And then this one I thought was pretty interesting. It says, fear grips D.C. as Musk gains access to sensitive Treasury Department payment system that controls $5 trillion. Fear gripped Washington this morning as Musk gained access to the Treasury Department's payment system. The system is run by non-political career civil servants and controls trillions of dollars of government funds that go into programs like Social Security and Medicare. Any interruption in its operation would spark widespread economic failure. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent gave Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, the green light to have full access to the payments system late on Friday. And remember, Musk was a co-founder, or at least involved somehow, in the payment system known as PayPal. You might have heard of it. Yeah, and then, let's see. It was not immediately clear why Musk wants to access the system, which handles around $5 trillion annually, but it could provide the Trump administration another means to target wasteful spending. It comes after a standoff this week with top Treasury official, David Lebrick, who was in charge of the system through Trump's first term and during Biden's tenure. Lebrick had resisted Musk's attempts to access the system. He was abruptly placed on leave before announcing his retirement on Friday. So like the guy from the TVA, he decided it's time to check out. Democrats and the liberal press erupted over Musk's move, with the likes of Senator Warren, Pocahontas, calling for Congress to investigate Musk's new power, and Representative Jayapal saying the ordeal reeks of corruption. Yeah, it's corruption when you want to know what's going on. Yeah, too funny. Anyways, and I started watching this video. This was one that I found a link to. I will link to this in the Substack post, but I won't bother playing any of it tonight. It might be interesting. I haven't gotten through much of it, but it's called Daniel's 70th Week, Multiple Fulfillments, ? This is Christian Widener. You guys might remember him here. He has been a guest on several of Janie Duvall's show, so I think that's possibly worth a watch. It's 2 hours long, though, so make sure you have enough time. But it's Daniel's 70th Week Prophecy is what it's about. So anyway, I'll link to that video in the Substack post, but you guys can look it up on YouTube if you want. It's on Scott Harwell's channel. And then, let's see. New York Post article, wildfires erupt near North Carolina towns ravaged by Hurricane Helene. So we went from the hurricane and floods to now they're having wildfires. Can't catch a break, huh? At least 3 wildfires have ignited near North Carolina towns that were devastated by Helene. As of Thursday morning, the Crooked Creek fire has burned an estimated 250 acres and is now 55% contained. I bet they have water there. I bet they have fire equipment there. I mean, unless it got washed away by the floods from Helene, I don't know. Emergency crews said they made significant progress overnight as winds diminished and relative humidity increased, leading to lower fire activity. So, yeah, evacuation orders in the affected areas have been lifted. So, wow. Wildfires in North Carolina towns ravaged by Helene. So insane. Yeah, and I found this. Let me enlarge this a little bit so you can read it. Thought this was pretty interesting and very, very much on target. Trump administration, this is just someone's tweet. Trump administration, we're going to freeze all foreign aid except Israel. And Trump administration, we're champions of free speech except if you criticize Israel. That's the little asterisk there. Trump administration, we're different than the Biden administration except when it comes to Israel. And the Trump administration, America first, and then the asterisk says, or sometimes Israel first. Not that far off, actually. Although, you know, Trump has done some good stuff, so I'll give him that. But very, very much on target, though, I think. The U.S. says U.S. spent $50 million on condoms for Gaza, according to the White House. President Trump has accused his predecessor of wasting taxpayer funds. Yeah, that would do it. $50 million for condoms in Gaza. Yeah, that was, they were using them as condom bombs. I don't know if you knew that. They would blow them up and use them to, use them for explosives. So obviously they were getting their use out of them. So that's nice. But I guess he's put the stop to that. Pretty funny. And very sad. But yeah, I wonder how many years they've been paying for condoms in Gaza. And keep in mind that, I don't know how many that would be, but wow, that's crazy. And they're killing off most of the people in Gaza, so I would think that they're not really getting much use out of the $50 million. It's probably just going into people's pockets, is my guess. They're just pocketing the money and running off to buy houses in Switzerland and places like that. All right, and then I found this video. It was just live streamed a couple days ago. Another Candace Owens video on Brigitte. I think you know who I mean. Macron. So this is one you can find on her channel if you want. It's called Becoming Brigitte, an Introduction. It's talking about the man to woman, also known as Brigitte Macron. So she's done a lot of research here on this whole thing, and I think it's certainly, even if you don't really necessarily buy it, it's certainly worth a watch, because I think she definitely has done the work here to prove that's what's going on, and it's made even more to that point because the Macrons have sent her a letter telling her to stop. So I think that's important, because why would they bother if it was just a lie? But yeah, she's really uncovering a lot with regard to the Macrons, the leaders of France. So very interesting, huh? All right, we talked about the main plane crash that happened, but there was another one. I mentioned that a time or two, and I wanted to show this overhead drone footage of Philly on Saturday morning. I think I've got another one here. Okay, here's the drone footage of Philly on Friday night. You can see this is the other plane crash that happened in Philadelphia. So this is the drone footage from right after that happened, Friday night. I think it was 6 people on that plane. It sounded like a missile hitting. There's some other videos we'll watch as well. A couple of X accounts that I found that had some very interesting videos. But you can see all of the mess, all the fire trucks and stuff showing up here on this one right after it happened. Overhead drone footage of Philly on Friday night. That's all that one says. And then, now this is the aftermath. This is from Saturday morning, so from yesterday morning, after they've got all the fires put out and everything. So you can see some of the debris field that was left. It just looks like an absolute war zone in that block or two where the plane went down. Pretty amazing. Again, this is from the Philadelphia area from yesterday morning. Look at that vehicle. There's one of the impact places there, smashed into the sidewalk. Something hit there. I don't know what. So that's very interesting. So that is on Forbidden Knowledge, forbiddenknowledge.tv. It's a site that I mention each week, and there's a few other articles here on the other plane crash, the one with the Black Hawk. Several things here. Check out the plasmoids in the mushroom cloud in Philly. Dashcam video of the plane crash in Philly briefly knocked out streetlights. So there's several here, as you can see, on both of the recent plane crashes. So forbiddenknowledgetv.net is what that is. It's a good site. And then this is one of the ones that I found. Actually, it's on RT. It's from RT's Twitter account. So let's listen to this one. Now, the guy filming here is clearly a Muslim, because he's yelling Allahu Akbar, which I think means God is great, maybe? I don't know. But he is clearly in duress. But it is really pretty wild what he videoed. So let's watch a little bit of this and listen to it as well.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Oh my God! Oh my God! La ilaha illallah! There's a plane, bro! That's a plane! I caught that on camera! Yo! Yo! Allahu Akbar! Yo! 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 Oh my God! La ilaha illallah! 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 لا إله إلا الله. Oh my God. What the hell? Yo. Oh my God. Allahu Akbar.
Wow, that is wild. Anyway, my guess is you guys probably hadn't seen that one. Now, this person says, Aloha Akbar translates more or less into oh my God, which is what a lot of people would say when seeing a plane crash. Yeah. Won't judge harshly for what people say in these moments. Most of us have never witnessed a live plane crash before. So that is wild. I just wanted to show you guys that video. That's one of the most interesting ones that I found on that crash in Philly from a few nights ago. Total insanity. And then, let's see, mentioned this earlier, breaking Canadian crude slapped with 10% tariff by Trump. So this is on Rebel News, talking about another part of the tariff that was issued. Now this is saying 10% on the oil. Trump says Canadian crude will probably, quote unquote, probably receive some reprieve from his devastating tariffs slated to begin, says tomorrow, but they mean yesterday. Will the tariffs be inclusive of Canada's crude? Reporter asks. I'm probably going to reduce the tariff a little bit on that one, Trump replied. We're going to bring it down to 10%. Okay, instead of 25%. I gotcha. Meanwhile, Tampon Trudeau says the country is in for a difficult few months with all other exports that are facing a 25% tariff. So yeah, we'll see if it actually works as Trump says it will. I don't know. Again, have to wait and see on that, unfortunately. And then one other Rebel News article. They do good work. I don't know if you guys have ever seen their site. I mentioned them, I think, last week because they have a whole section dedicated to the World Economic Forum. They do report from Davos type things, man on the street things. Very interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, this is another article on their site. Biological males dominate women's college volleyball game in Ontario. The Centennial Colts. Wait a minute. It's women's volleyball, but they're named Colts? Colts are male horses. I just happened to notice that. The Centennial Colts took on the Algonquin Grizzlies in female varsity volleyball the other night. The Colts slaughtered the Grizzlies. Maybe it's because there are 2 men on their roster. So, while we are ending males dominating females in female sports in America, not so much in Canada. How about that? South of the border, thanks to Trump taking office again, the war on wokeism has begun in earnest. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are being jettisoned at government departments and the military in favor of a meritocracy. Meanwhile, Trump has declared that there are only 2 genders. Says shockers. Such common sense statements make for a breath of fresh air, but alas, common sense would appear to be very uncommon in our great dominion, meaning Canada. In 2025, transanity, that intersection where transgenderism and insanity collide, continues unabated. Case in point, last Wednesday, Toronto-based Centennial Colts, again a male horse, visited Algonquin College in Barrie, Ontario to take on the Grizzlies in female varsity volleyball. Well, not entirely female. You see, the Colts still have a couple of players in the roster who are men that, quote, identify as women. And it mentions who they are in this article. And my guess is they are towering above the women. So, you know, volleyball is one of those things we've definitely seen. We've seen some I have seen some videos of, male volleyball players spiking the ball and smashing it, at who knows what mile per hour into female female players on the other side of the net, getting hit in the head with a spiked volleyball from a male player and having permanent brain damage. That has happened. So look how dangerous this is, and they're still allowing it. That's what's amazing. Anyway, yeah, enough on that. But yeah, you can see that transgenderism in the men and women's sports is definitely alive and well in most of the rest of the West, at least. Certainly not in the whole world, but very strange. All right, I wanted to mention this. Trump throws his weight behind new generation of gene therapy injections for cancer and other diseases. We mentioned this last week. This is talking about the Stargate and the $500 billion to build, the systems needed for this Stargate project, and the Sky Valley and all that stuff. Yeah, right. Again, I don't really know that this is going to happen, but it sure gives people a lot to complain about, and rightfully so. People should be complaining about this. This is totally insane. Now, this is what I was going to show you. This is the guy here. This is the guy that heads up OpenAI, Sam Altman, right? This is him. And he was in that video that many of you guys saw, I'm sure. This is what I wanted to show you, actually, about that. Have you guys seen this? This will blow your mind. OpenAI, that's his company. And OpenAI, first of all, is not open. It's as closed as it gets. And OpenAI is where ChatGPT comes from. You may have heard of it. Yeah, he did say he was the father of the vaccines, Kathy. Yeah. Yep, he did. He sure did. He takes credit for it, and he's never apologized for that. Anyway, this is crazy. Check this out. So this is the OpenAI logo, and if you rotate it just a little bit and make a copy of it, and then put that copy on top of the original, and then you flip it, look what you get. Is that an accident? No, I don't think so either. Watch it again. Make a copy, put it on top, flip the copy in perspective, and what do you get? The Star of David. How about that? I don't think that was an accident, do you? Not at all. Well, I wanted to show you guys something. Now, this is something I came across. Now, for you guys who are Trump haters, you're probably not going to like this. But I wanted to share this with you. Hopefully, if you're a believer, you will listen to me without prejudice here and let me fully explain what I'm trying to do with telling you this. This is something that I came across earlier in the week. To me, it was pretty mind-blowing. But I haven't necessarily come up with a conclusion here. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this. So Leviticus 14:14. I've got it highlighted here. And it says, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe, big toe, of his right foot. Now, this is talking about cleansing the leper. Cleansing the leper. So, the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it upon the tip of his right ear of him that is to be cleansed. So the person, I guess the leper in this case. And upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. So you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Oy vey, shut it down. Yeah, so this is what I found when I heard about this scripture recently. I wasn't familiar with it, and then looked it up when I heard someone talking about it. And so looking at the shot to the ear, as we've all seen, and, people are saying that this was all fake. Some people are saying it was faked. I personally think it was 100% real. And so you can kind of see his hand here. He's got blood from his ear on his index finger for sure. It's pretty red. And a little bit on his thumb. Again, this was the shooting back last summer. So this is a close-up here, and I'm going to zoom in here on his thumb. You can see he's definitely got blood on his thumb right here. So that's Trump's thumb. And I tried to find out if there was any information about, did he get blood on his toe of his shoe? But what I found out was that the Secret Service agents, when the shooting happened and they tried to get him down quickly, they tackled him so hard it knocked his shoes off. So you can see there in that picture, someone took a photo of one of his shoes. Yeah, Kathy says she thinks it was staged. Okay. Well, what I'm saying here is that perhaps there's more to it than we're thinking. I don't know. But now here's a close-up of the shoe. This is even a better shot, really. But it's the opposite side of the shoe. I think that is probably the right shoe, but you can't see any big toe side because it would be on the far side. So there's no way to confirm this. I'm just saying, going back to Leviticus 14:14, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, which we did see, and upon the great toe of his right foot. So pretty wild, huh? And it is his right hand. But we don't know about the foot. We don't know about the shoe. Now, it knocked his shoes off, and in that moment, from what I found, in that moment, he was fairly distraught about losing his shoes and made someone go back and get his shoes for him before they took off. So he would have seen whether or not there was blood on the shoe, on the big toe area of the shoe. I just think it's very interesting. You can draw from it what you want on that. I personally think that it's possible that, as Vicky's saying here, that is an anointing. I think it's very possible that this, God does not mess around when it comes to blood. He really doesn't. And, where those drops of blood flow and fall would be known, but only by God and only by Trump, because he was the one that was in the middle of all this. So I don't know. I just think it's really interesting. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I do think that it kind of makes sense. Doesn't mean that he's perfect. Doesn't mean that, if God is anointing him for this time, if that's what's going on, it doesn't mean he's going to do everything perfect and follow God's will 100%. We all know that's not the case. He's already not done that leading up to it. And just like all of us have fallen short, right? We all have. But I do find it interesting, that's for sure. All right, let's keep going here. Kash Patel's one of the ones being dragged over the proverbial coals there in the Senate. So we'll see where it goes. Kash Patel's FISA stance, balancing national security and constitutional rights in the age of surveillance. Personally, I think he probably will get confirmed. But here's what I wanted to bring your attention to. Not necessarily Kash's nomination, and not necessarily the hearings that are going on in the Senate, the confirmation hearings. Here's what I wanted to mention. You guys might know who Stu Peters is, right? Well, apparently, Kash Patel has forgotten under oath who Stu Peters is. And he's been on his show like 8 times. He doesn't know who he is. So this is definitely one of those caught you moments where he is under oath, right? Don't they do an oath when they go into these hearings? Where he's lied, because it can be proven that he lied. Now, I don't like saying that because I personally think Kash Patel might be a good choice to clean up some of what's going on in the FBI. However, I wanted to mention this because I think this is kind of a big deal, although because it's about Stu Peters, people will say, oh, it doesn't matter because it's about Stu Peters. But he is a human being, So here's what it says.
Are you familiar with a Stu Peters? Does that name ring a bell?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you familiar with Mr. Stu Peters?
Not off the top of my head.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu. Always love coming on your show.
Kash Patel, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu. Appreciate it. See you soon.
I got to go, Kash. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks,
up
Stu.
against a hard break here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Stu.
Kash Patel, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Stu. Appreciate it. You've got a great show.
When he says, I don't know who Stu Peters is, who's a white supremacist, he went on his podcast 8 times. I think you know one time, maybe, you blacked out that day. You go on 8 times, you probably know who that person is.
Stu Peters, does that name ring a bell?
I'm sorry, what?
What do you think? Yeah, I don't know. I think they caught him in a lie. Unless it's just been edited in such a way where that's not the case, but that doesn't look like it. So Stu says on this very post, he says, no, they're not buddies. He and I were at an event together in Texas. I had him on the show a couple times early on, but there were six clips right there in that one clip that we watched. Had him on the show a couple times early on, haven't had him back, and didn't get the best vibe, Stu says. This was from a few days ago. So anyway, I just thought I would point that out. And one more liar I can't trust. Well, he's lied about this. That I don't know. I mean, and he's under oath. I think that's kind of important. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But he probably figured that knowing Stu Peters probably isn't going to help his chances of getting in there is what I'm guessing. All right, so winepressnews.com. Trump slaps first round of tariffs against China, Mexico, and Canada. Mexico and Canada respond with their own tariffs. So I didn't necessarily know that, but this is saying levying a tariff on a good increases its cost for businesses and consumers. Yeah. It says after many threats and warnings on the campaign trail to levy tariffs on a number of different countries, Trump announced the first wave of tariffs against China, Mexico, and Canada, with the most of the emphasis to be placed on Mexico, blamed for the immigration and drug crisis in the U.S. Mexico immediately responded with its own tariffs against the U.S. Investopedia defines a tariff as a tax imposed by one country on the goods and services imported from another country to influence it, to raise revenues, or to protect competitive advantages. It also lists some criticisms of implementing tariffs. In addition, the Mexican drug trafficking organizations have an intolerable alliance with the government of Mexico. Access to the American market is a privilege. The United States has one of the most open economies in the world and the lowest average tariff rates in the world. While trade accounts for 67% of Canada's GDP, 73% of Mexico's GDP, and 37% of China's GDP, it accounts for only 24% of the U.S. GDP. However, in 2023, the U.S. trade deficit in goods was the world's largest at over $1 trillion. So anyway, Trump even hinted at hefty tariffs of 60% to 100% levied against China. He's also toyed with the idea of 100% tariff on Mexican goods. So I think he means business, don't you? Anyway, so that is on Wine Press News. And then one more from there. X partners with Visa to create X Money in push to transform platform into the Everything app, which is similar to WeChat in China. Ex-owner Musk inked a deal with payment platform Visa to launch X Money, facilitating money transfers from debit cards and bank accounts to X Money accounts will allow X users to pay each other on the platform. The move furthers Musk's ambition to turn the social media app, formerly known as Twitter, into a so-called Everything app, akin to the popular Chinese app WeChat, an app used by its government to enforce its social credit score. So they're calling it X Money. Isn't his son named X? The little guy? Seems like it is. Maybe it's all going to be his money. So check this out. This is wild. Kanye has really lost it. And I think his wife has literally lost it. Kanye's wife shocks onlookers, shows up to the Grammys, which I think were tonight. Red carpet, Grammys red carpet, completely nude. And they got kicked out. So isn't that lovely? So Kanye and his wife, Bianca Censori, maybe, were kicked out of the Grammys. Kanye and Bianca were not believed to have been officially invited to the Grammys. Officially invited to the Grammys. You don't have to be invited. That's not how it works. I used to be a member of the thing called Grammy 365, and if you reach a certain status in the music business, which I'm in the music business, you can be part of the Grammy association, and you can vote. And I left the Grammys association back in 2020, I think it was. It's been a while. But during that period of time, as a member, you can go to the Grammy Awards. So if Kanye, my guess is he's probably a member, he and his wife could definitely go to the Grammy Awards. You don't have to be invited. You can just go. If you have bought your ticket, you can go, show up, and be there. So that's not really true. You don't have to be officially invited. Anyway, I just thought that was wild. I mean, she's literally just walking around completely naked. She has some clear sheer dress on. But you can't see it. You can't see the dress. So isn't that lovely? This is where we are. But at least they got kicked out. So apparently there is something that you can do in Los Angeles to actually get kicked out of something. And that's it. Show up with no clothes on, and I guess it still gets you kicked out. It's pretty amazing. I just thought I would bring that up. That was very strange. Female pilot Rebecca Lobach's entire social media has been scrubbed before the Army released her name. And what are they hiding? So this goes back to the whole Black Hawk helicopter and plane crash. They've scrubbed her social media, so that's interesting, huh? Back when she was working in the White House. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they've figured out whose fault it is or something. I don't know. I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying, is that what's going on? Anyway, I don't know. So I guess hopefully we'll find out some more information on what's going on there. Developing FAA forced to use backup system after main warning system for pilots experiences outage. So yet again, something else that's happened. Federal Aviation Administration was forced to use a backup system after its main warning system for pilots went down on Saturday night. Primary NOTAM system is experiencing a temporary outage, but there is currently no impact to the National Airspace System because a backup system is in place. NOTAMs provide updates about anything that may affect the safety of a flight, but that system went down. So they're having all kinds of trouble in the airline industry, aren't they? Speaking of which, here's one more. Watch. Passengers evacuated after the wing on a United Airlines flight bursts into flames before takeoff in Houston. Horrific incident occurred Sunday morning on a United Airlines flight from Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston to New York, which caused the 104 passengers to be evacuated.
Come on, I'll get longer. Please remain seated until further instructions may happen. Oh my gosh. Please get us on. So sorry, this is jet.
So they haven't. At least they got everybody off, and at least the plane wasn't in mid-air, in mid-flight. I mean, how crazy is that? So if you guys are flying places pretty regularly, just be on the lookout. I don't know what's going on here, but it seems to be. I don't know if it's getting worse or if it's just everything cropping up at once, but that is crazy how things are going. Trump's new FCC chair demands transcript of deceptively edited 60 Minutes interview with Harris. So yeah, we talked about this earlier. This is just more information on that interview, which we all saw clips of that. I didn't watch the whole thing. I doubt that you guys did either, but it will be interesting to see the original version of it. That would be very good to see. And then another Gateway Pundit article update. Crashed airplane in Philly was a medical air rescue jet carrying 6 passengers, including a young girl. Air traffic control audio reveals moments before crash. Quote, "We have a lost aircraft," end quote. Now, this article is from yesterday. New details regarding the passengers on board the airplane that crashed in Pennsylvania on Friday have emerged, and chilling audio reveals the moments leading up to the crash, less than 3 miles away from the Northeast Philadelphia airport where the flight took off. It says that the jet was reportedly a Learjet 55 medevac flight. There were 6 individuals, 2 pilot crew and 2 medical personnel, a young female patient, and an escort. According to Fox, all passengers were Mexican nationals. The patient was in the U.S. receiving life-saving medical treatment, according to a spokesperson for the flight operator. Gateway Pundit reported on the tragedy Friday night when the plane crash happened in Philadelphia, exploding upon impact with or around multiple houses and causing numerous casualties. Multiple homes caught fire. Yeah. So, and that's what we watched the clip of earlier where the guy was yelling Allahu Akbar or whatever. But then there's some Ring cameras and things like that. I'm sure you guys have seen that. But again, I mean, let's hope this is the end of the plane crashes here, but this is crazy. I mean, let's hope it's not Operation Northwoods 2.0 like I mentioned earlier. That would not be good. RFK Jr. lands a heavy blow on socialist Bernie after calling him out face-to-face for pocketing millions from Big Pharma. I like how he instantly goes on the defense. RFK Jr. delivered a scorching indictment of Bernie Sanders' financial ties to the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah, but he thinks it's a plus. RFK came out swinging at Vermont Senator Sanders for his deep-pocketed ties to Big Pharma during the second day of confirmation hearings for new head of Health and Human Services. He wasted no time in pointing out the blatant corruption in Washington, and he wasn't about to let Sanders off the hook. By the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too, he said. Almost all the members of this panel, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry and protecting their interests. Kennedy challenged the socialist senator, drawing applause from the audience. Sanders, visibly flustered, tried to wiggle out of the accusation. Yeah. Well, what was really funny, I thought, he did try to wiggle out, and this picture doesn't really reflect it, but by the end of the exchange, Bernie's face was like cherry red. He was hot. He was really mad that Kennedy dared to bring that up and have it be, of course, on the record in the Senate, which I got quite a bit of enjoyment out of personally. Crew chief of the Black Hawk helicopter and American Airlines pilots in deadly midair collision have been identified. Now, this is the other guy, I guess this guy, in addition to the girl that we mentioned a couple times. Ryan O'Hara was one of the other pilots. So, anyway, I guess, little by little, more and more information is coming out here. O'Hara was an active member of the school's Marine Corps Junior ROTC program during his time there. He was from Georgia. He's survived by his wife and their 1-year-old son. Very sad. Anyway, that is one of the pilots. And then this was the pilot of the American Airlines jet, Samuel Lilly of Georgia. Also Georgia. So that's some of the crew, some of the people that were involved in the accident that happened. So that's on the Gateway Pundit. New videos of helicopter collision with airplane near Reagan Airport. Yeah, this has some interesting, very close-up video in it. It's embedded here. I didn't pull up the tweet, but it's one of these Twitter posts, and I'll put that in the Substack that I send out on Tuesday. I know we've covered a lot on the plane crashes tonight, but there was a lot to talk about. Tragic U.S. figure skating team joined by a renowned Russian figure skating couple among passengers on ill-fated flight. So this one's the renowned figure skating coaches and former world champions Shishkova and Naumov were among the passengers. This is them in 1994 at the Lillehammer Olympics. So they were now coaches, and they were aboard the plane as well. So very sad. Wow. All right, and then activistpost.com, 10 burning questions that everyone should be asking about the Black Hawk disaster in D.C. So I didn't pull that up specifically, but you guys can look that up if you want, activistpost.com. It's a good site. They always have really good info. What in the world just happened at Reagan National Airport? Like many of you, I was deeply distressed to hear such tragedy. This should have been so easily avoided. There's no way that we can bring those back that have died. And then another article on devalued dollar will crash the Dow. Martin Armstrong, whom I respect, he always does good work. He's on with Greg Hunter pretty often on Greg Hunter's podcast. And is always interesting to listen to. Free at last, Trump kept his promise to free Ross. We mentioned that last week. Ross Ulbricht. And The Who turns to crowdfunding after Trump pulls the plug. A $1 billion shortfall in a lesson in global priorities. That is too funny. The Who is reaching out to crowdfunding because the U.S. is pulling out. Wow. 906 earthquakes hit California and Nevada as we closely watch seismic activity at Yellowstone, Mount Rainier, and the San Andreas. Wow. Lots of seismic activity, and the fires are connected to that too, by the way. That's something that Dutch Sense talks about all the time, or at least he used to talk about all the time on his channel, that the fires start oftentimes where these earthquakes happen. Pretty wild. Anyway, there's a few more articles here on the homepage of Activist Post. Thomas Massie is once again introducing a one-sentence bill to terminate the Department of Education. I am really looking forward to the day when this annual tradition ends. Not because I'm tired of Massie making the effort. It would just be nice if it finally gets passed. So Thomas Massie, mention him every now and then on this show. I just reintroduced H.R. 899, a one-sentence bill to terminate the Federal Department of Education and return power back to teachers and parents. This is it, the entire bill. We can read the whole thing on this show if you want to. In the House of Representatives, Mr. Massie introduced the following bill, which was referred to the committee on, and then there's a blank, probably for a date, a bill to terminate the Department of Education. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, Section 1, Termination of the Department of Education. The Department of Education shall be terminated on December 31, 2026. That is the only thing that I disagree with Rep. Massie about. It should be December 31, 2025. Let's do it now. Anyway, yeah. No confusion, no nonsense. This says, in 1979, I created the Department of Education. This is Jimmy Carter talking. Since then, America went from first to 24th in education. I don't think America's even that high, but I'd be surprised anyway. So, yeah, something Trump has talked about, getting rid of the Department of Education. I say close it all down. We'll see what happens. And then this is more on the jet engine catching fire on the plane in Houston. There's a still shot of the fire bursting out of the engine. Yeah, so more craziness with airplanes. And then another article on Dr. Boyle. I mentioned him at the beginning of the show, who recently passed away. So we'll link to this, and this has got some good videos of Dr. Boyle doing his thing, talking in some interviews with Alex here on InfoWars. So I always like Dr. Boyle, though. He's no-nonsense kind of guy. All right, modernity.news, couple articles from there. Did you mean trains? Senate Department scrubs transgenderism out of existence. Only LGB remains, which I mentioned all that a little while ago. Trump's purge of DEI nonsense from government departments continues to proceed full steam ahead, with the terms trans being completely wiped from the State Department website. And people are having their gnashing of teeth moment, if you ask me. Anyway, yeah, there it is. So this is the tweet's embedded here. It says, when you search for the word trans on the State Department travel website, it comes back with, did you mean trains? Look at that. So that's good news. Here's the choo-choo. Trump on the choo-choo. All LGBs need to get on the choo-choo. Too funny. And then this one, more LGBTQ flags on embassies. Trump orders. He's instructed the State Department to issue an order to enforce a worldwide one-flag policy, meaning only the Stars and Stripes can be flown on U.S. embassies, no trans flags. How about that? It might be a little thing, but it's kind of important. Kind of important. Because, you know, what you put out there into the world definitely can come back. And we don't want this coming back. All right, and then a couple of Israel 365 articles. Trump administration cancels $50 million for condoms in Gaza. I mentioned that earlier, although that is just regular balloons. Anyway, yep, I think that's good news. Funny that it's on the Israel 365 website. They're probably happy about that. Netanyahu leaves for meeting with Trump at White House, so that's coming up this week. So Bibi's very happy with the alliance with Trump here, and they're going to go get the anti-Semites. You know who you are. So watch out. All right, and then GeoWatch for this week. Chemical winter weather in the Northwest. Pineapple Express to unleash a torrent of rain and snow on the western U.S. Yeah, but it probably won't make its way to California, is my guess. What happens when chemical ice nucleation cloud seeding operations are carried out over the Pineapple Express? How about this? Winter storm warnings for 12 states as 48 inches of snow to hit. 48 inches of snow, this says. Wow. There's more to the story. February thaw. Mild air to surge across the U.S. next week. So what is now going to follow the record cold and record blizzards in places like the Texas Gulf Coast, New Orleans, and Florida. Record warmth for southern cities. Of course. Chemical ice nucleation, cloud seeding engineered winter events followed by temperature whiplash, record warmth. Welcome to weather warfare. Yeah, he always says that, you know, once they have these chemical cool downs, the temperature always rebounds right away, bounces right back up. That's what he's calling the temperature whiplash or weather whiplash. So yeah, Gulf Coast chemical snow blizzard was the most recent thing here. And then this is the global alert news for this week as well, embedded on GeoWatch, geoengineeringwatch.org. All right, scheduled weather for this week. It's going to be warm, 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 at least where I am. And it's been pretty nice lately. Didn't feel like February out there. Anyway, yep. Southeast, mostly warm, and northwest, mostly cold. So you got the flip-flop. You got the half and half, although it's kind of at a slant this time. Sometimes it's a stark line right down the middle of the U.S., and you got a hot side and a cold side. So anyway, that is dates February 8th through the 12th. 8th through the 12th. So if you're in the south or southeast, get ready for some warm temps. If you're in the west, though, get ready for some cooler temps, especially the northwest. So anyway, we'll see how it all unfolds. All right, let's take a look at this. Looking to see what time it is. Yeah, we have time for this. So this is Tim Cohen video, and I thought it was worth watching. It's not all that long. So let's watch this, and we'll be right back.
Well, it is happening. The stage is being set, and the big power brokers in this world are making their moves. We've got some really, really incredible news for you concerning King Charles and Pope Francis, the one world government, and the coming one world religion. And guess what? It is not Christianity. And to help me break this down, I have author Tim Cohen. He is from Prophecy House. That's prophecyhouse.com. And he is the author of the book, The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea, where he makes the claim and supports it with tons of evidence that King Charles is indeed the coming Antichrist. Welcome back to the show, Tim. You've brought some clips, and later Tim is going to show he's got a document that was released by Buckingham Palace along with a video message. The video message we cannot find now, but Tim was able to capture this particular document before it was retracted moments later. And we're going to save that till the end. This could be a very short show, but welcome back, Tim. What do you got as far as this first clip that we have with King Charles at his Christmas address? What does he have to say?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Good to be with you. So he is doing a couple of things. One is he's equivocating between Christianity and all other religions, basically indicating that all of them are paths to God in his view, and that no God is better than another God, and that's the basis, in other words, quote unquote, tolerance of everything but what's biblically true is the basis for peace on earth. And with that, of course, he's pushing ecofascism, coming together under the global climate change scam as the means to draw mankind together by force, if necessary.
Well, let's watch this first clip. This is about 30 seconds long.
He reminds us, our Savior Holy came down to earth from heaven, lived among the poor and mean and lowly, and transformed the lives of those he met through God's redeeming love. That is the heart of the Nativity story. And we can hear its beat in the belief of all the great faiths, in the love and mercy of God in times of joy and of suffering, calling us to bring light where there is darkness.
Oh, calling us to bring light where there is darkness.
That's from any of the great faiths, quote unquote, in Charles' view, meaning any of the great Satanist leaders who are religious in the world. He's equivocating between them and Christianity. And as it turns out, the Pope, the final Pope perhaps of the Roman Catholic Church, did exactly the same thing at Christmas time in 2024, almost as if it were alongside Charles.
Let's watch this clip or listen to it. There is a translator, so bear in mind, but this is about 1.5 minutes, and you need to hear this. This is the Pope mimicking exactly what Charles was referring to.
Tutte le religioni sono un cammino per arrivare a Dio.
Because every religion is a way to arrive at God.
Sono, dirò una comparazione, sono come diverse lingue, diversi idiomi per arrivare lì.
Sort of a comparison, an example would be they're sort of like different languages in order to arrive at God.
Ma Dio è Dio per tutti.
But God is God for all.
E come Dio è Dio per tutti, noi siamo tutti figli di Dio.
And if God is God for all, then we're all sons and daughters of God.
Ma il mio Dio è più importante del tuo.
But my God is more important than your God.
È vero quello?
Is that true?
C'è un solo Dio lì. E noi sono idiomi, cammino, lingue per arrivare a Dio.
There's only one God, and each of us is a language, so to speak, in order to arrive at God.
Qualcuno qualcuno musulmano, qualcuno
Muslim,
qualcuno cristiano,
Hindu,
ma Sono
Christian.
diversi cammini.
They're different paths.
Understood?
What we're seeing, Jeff, very clearly at this point is the partnership between Charles as the Antichrist foretold in biblical apocalyptic prophecy and perhaps the final Pope of Rome. And I pointed out in both editions of the Antichrist and a Cup of Tea, 1998's first edition and this one on the screen, which we can see from 2024, that the final Pope of the Roman Catholic Church is likely to serve as the false prophet alongside the Antichrist, both under the devil. And Charles is over what is today only describable as an apostate Anglican communion from the top, while the Pope is over what has always been described as an heretical, cultic, quote-unquote, Christian church from the top. And now these two are partnering together.
Let's bring up that document that you were able to capture that was removed from Buckingham Palace. Tim, tell us what it reads. In fact, it's short enough. Would you be willing to read the entire thing?
I'd love to. So this, by the way, I need to just say was released on December 25th, last year, 2024, officially from Buckingham Palace. And it is an official call to global governance through the World Economic Forum and its Great Reset agenda, which I've pointed out in many interviews is actually Charles' agenda. He is over the WEF, and Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, reports to Charles as one of his knights, literally. The Great Reset was announced by Charles from the World Economic Forum personally just years ago. And so now, last year, Christmas Day, 2024, this is the release from Buckingham Palace. His Majesty the King's Christmas message to the world and his annual Christmas message to the nation and the Commonwealth. His Majesty King Charles III has shared a poignant and urgent call to action addressing what he describes as, quote, the defining challenge of our age, end quote. And of course, that is the need to come around climate change and so forth for the world to come together. Now continuing, speaking from the Fitzrovia Chapel in London, His Majesty expressed deep concern over the systemic threats facing humanity, including climate change, pandemics, economic inequality, and escalating global political instability. In his remarks, the King emphasized the need for unprecedented global unity and cooperation, urging nations to embrace a collective vision for the future. Now, this is Charles speaking, quote, as we gather with loved ones this Christmas, let us remember that our shared humanity transcends borders and ideologies. It is only by embracing a global framework, a true partnership of nations as envisioned by the World Economic Forum's Great Reset, that's Charles' Great Reset, that we can address the profound challenges before us. The time has come to face an undeniable truth. The concept of absolute sovereignty, as we have long understood it, must evolve. Indeed, it must be dismantled for the good of humankind. A unified global governance is not merely an ideal, it is a necessity if we are to safeguard the future of our planet and our people. The time for half measures has passed. Our survival demands courage, cooperation, and a willingness to embrace transformative change. If we do not act decisively, we risk a future of mankind by fragmentation, instability, and despair. End quote. The palace has also announced that the King will host a global forum in early 2025, convening leaders, thinkers, and innovators to discuss the practical implementation of this shared vision.
Well, there you go, right from King Charles himself. No wonder they pulled that down, because it was a little bit too in your face, but they tell you what they want to know. Hey, look up Tim Cohen. His website is prophecyhouse.com. You can also find him on social media, Facebook, and other places as author Tim Cohen. My name is Jeff, and remember to love your God, love your family, love your neighbor as yourself, and make a difference in your community.
Pretty wild about the possible, I guess, very possible, false prophet, biblical false prophet as the Pope. That does make sense when you look at the definition of that. So a false prophet is someone who claims to be a prophet or speak for God, but is actually spreading lies and deception. The term can also be used to describe someone who promotes a false theory. That would sound like the Pope to me. So, I've heard other people say that, oh no, the false prophet's Donald Trump, or the false prophet's Elon Musk, or the false prophet is fill in the blank, whoever happens to be someone front and center at the moment. But the Pope really never does go away, and this particular guy is particularly evil. Makes sense to me that he could very well be the false prophet, and he is someone who is claiming to be a prophet or speak for God. I don't know about the prophet part, but certainly claims to speak for God, as by definition, that's his role, right? Anyway, I thought that was very interesting, and all the stuff there about the World Economic Forum and Charles and Klaus Schwab and the document that he read as well that's apparently been taken off of the website that they talked about. So pretty wild, Buckingham Palace and all of that. So yeah. And then let's see. Follow me on X if you're not already. Would appreciate that. Yep. It's the Diamond Report on X. You can just search for the Diamond Report, or it's the Diamond RPRT for report. It's abbreviated. So then there is the first most recent tweet here is about abolishing the Department of Education, which I mentioned earlier. And then here's some stuff about RFK. And then this is the Nicole Shanahan tweet that I mentioned, where she tells a few of the senators out there, if they don't vote for Bobby, they might have to bring out some further information they might not want to be brought out. So very interesting. And then this is not normal. Yeah, and if you missed it, if you got here late, we'll go back to the wonderful picture that I came up with here. So this is Punxsutawney Phil for the week, for the day. This is Groundhog Day if you missed it. And again, we'll go back to the whole idea that maybe he could be more accurate if he knew about geoengineering. So this is Phil enjoying the chemtrail skies. Not really, but thought that was pretty wild. And then, yeah, this is not normal. I like how they're still calling, anytime you post much of anything about geoengineering on the old Twitter, which is now X, they always say, no, it doesn't exist. You're crazy. It's just exhaust from planes. It's just ice crystals. Yep. So they let you say it, but they flag your tweets about it. So anyway, so that was the crazy. Oh, I want to show you one more thing. I saw this other thing that just popped out at me. So this is kind of wild. Now I can pretty much guarantee you what the problem is with this guy's eyeballs. Look at Superman. He's like cross-eyed. This is the new Superman, which apparently is as good a guy as they could get for this role now. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened, but anyway, look at his eyes. So his eyes are wonky, right? And that's what this tweet's about. Somebody tweeted this and said, can someone please explain what's wrong with his eyes? Not just they look weird. Like, actually explain what the problem is, because all I see is a man looking forward towards where he's flying, and now people are BI itching because his arms aren't forward. Hashtag Superman. And apparently they're putting out a new film or something. I don't know. Don't really know. I don't really care. And then I responded by saying to this tweet, I said, as a reply, I said, any kind of injury is my guess. And I'm not just guessing, actually. I know for a fact that the reason people's eyes oftentimes do this kind of stuff is from any kind of injury. They might not even know it, but Dr. Andrew Molden, a Canadian doctor who has now since passed on, I think you probably know why, proved beyond any reasonable doubt that all sneeze cause harm. And he passed away long before the skydive ever happened. All sneeze cause harm. And he said in the interview that we have with him, we did a posthumous interview with him, 2 of them, I think, on Lost Arts Radio several years back. and it was very well received. We cut up clips of him talking and answering things, and Richard, the host of Lost Arts Radio, formed questions where it sounds like the edited answers sounds like he's answering Richard's questions. We had to do it as a posthumous interview because the guy had already passed away. So, but it was important because Richard wanted to have him on the show, and that was the only way to do it, obviously. So the thing is, Dr. Molden said specifically that he could tell just by looking at people's eyes, not how many anesthesia they've taken, but whether they were anesthesia injured or not, and he could always tell by the eyes. So anyway, I posted that's probably what's going on here, trying to be nice, saying it's probably anesthesia injury, and the guy that tweeted this, let me show you his response. That was his response. Nope, it can't be that. I mean, you can't question these guys. I mean, that's just crazy. Nope. So no thought, no further questions from this guy, no anything. It's just, nope. Not these guys. Anyway, I say it's probably Zaniska, Superman. What do you say? Anyway, if he was really Superman, he wouldn't be injured. All right, and then got one more groundhog picture for the day. Now, this one is the groundhog. Yeah, willfully ignorant. That's exactly right. And Miss Emily is here. Yeah, so this picture is of the groundhog who is sitting at the news desk reporting on the weather. But he's got the chemtrailed skies in the background on the monitor behind him. Now, don't ask me how I got this groundhog to pose for a picture in a newsroom. I'm just going to have to leave it as a secret, but just know I have secret groundhog powers. No, I'm just joking. But pretty funny stuff. And we're going to watch, in celebration of Groundhog Day, even though it's over officially, we're still going to watch the trailer for the movie, but not until the very end as I'm closing the show because, again, it's got music in it that might end my live stream, so I want to do it at the very end. So let's see what you guys have to say in this long and expansive list of comments in the YouTube chat. Nobody's chatting away at all over on Rumble. You guys are quiet over there. Got 13 viewers over on Rumble at the moment and 24 on YouTube. So welcome, everyone. I'm glad you guys are here. Let's see. I'm looking to see if Miss Emily has an update. You guys have probably seen it scroll up already, but I did not see it. She says, I think we figured out that Dad was doing a north loop rather than his regular south loop that day. He hit on the north side, so he had turned around and was on his way back when he hit the thermal. Okay, yeah, the thermal is what threw him into the mountain. That's the thinking here. Marty was wondering if there was a black box on the plane. She said, not certain on the black box. He couldn't get out of the thermal. It appears he just wanted to do a new loop, and that's why he was up there. Okay, he was on his way back. Okay, well, that's actually good. Good. Good news to know that was what's going on with the reason he was so far away. I know it seemed like he was way far away from where you guys actually are. I know that the NTSB is doing an extensive investigation and autopsy is being done to see if it was a medical issue. Okay. She appreciates all the prayers. Been such a horribly difficult and traumatic past month. I can't imagine what you guys have gone through. I cycle from grief, deep sadness to anger and back again. Yeah. Wow. When Dave Sparks is done with the editing, Dave Sparks, we mentioned him last week. He's got a YouTube channel. I found it the other day. I think it's called Heavy D something. But you can find him on YouTube. I'll try and link to it in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday. When Dave Sparks is done with the editing, I will post his documentary on Dad's recovery mission in band. Okay, for anyone who would like to see it. Yeah, that would be really cool. That'd be good to see some of the crew and see how they do what they do. But it's pretty amazing that he volunteered and had the equipment and the gear and the know-how and got it done for you guys. That's really good. Got your answers a lot sooner. If it weren't for Dave Sparks, you guys would still not have any answers, really. Sounds like. Okay, and then real definition. We were talking about Allah Akbar earlier because of the video that I played where the guy was shouting that. Kathy says the real definition is Allah is greater. Okay, all right. I didn't know that. And then Verb Homefront saying, I would be okay with the first black female president if it were Candace Owens. Yeah, she'd be great. Although she's deeply hated by so many people, she'd have to have pretty good security. Kathy says about as accidental as King Charles' portrait that turns into Baphomet. Yeah, we were looking at the OpenAI logo being duplicated and flipped around, and then you get the Star of David. Again, not an accident. Kathy's saying she paid $7 for a dozen eggs. Yeah, I know. They're blaming it on the bird flu, but they shouldn't blame it on the bird flu. They should blame it on the culling of the chickens because of the bird flu. That's why. They're killing so many chickens. Of course it's going to drive up the price of eggs. Not because they're dying from the bird flu. They're dying from being killed. The chickens are being murdered. So yeah, it's going to drive up the egg cost for sure. Susan says, showing up at the Grammy Awards naked is a prime example of just how far this world has fallen. That is exactly right. Yep. I know. Verb Homefront says, food, especially fresh fruit, will triple, at least because the pickers are afraid to work and farmers can't pay what Americans would expect. Yeah, and then some of that, of course, comes from Mexico and South America. So, yeah, fruit will go sky high, most likely. I think you're exactly right. Mark says, I had an end times dream several years ago. I saw planes crashing all over, and I said in my dream, well, this must be it. We are entering the tribulation. Planes crashing all over. Wow. Well, let's hope that we don't see any more planes crashing. But 2 in like a week or 10 days or whatever it was. I don't even think it was a week. That is super strange. And again, if anybody wants to look it up, I don't know when the last plane crash, airliner crash or whatever was in the U.S. Now, there have been others in other countries, but I'm talking about in the U.S. proper. I don't remember a recent plane crash. I don't know. I don't think it happened during the Biden administration, not because it was, his doing. I'm just saying I don't remember that. There were obviously tons and tons of airplane issues, but that was mostly mechanical and other types of failures. We had the whole Boeing thing going on, but no planes actually crashed until Trump got in there. So, yeah, it sounds a little bit like they're trying to set him up here. I don't know. Okay, thanks, Miss Emily, for posting the link for Band. It's in both chats, and it's also in also the Subscribestar link is in both chats, Rumble and YouTube. So thank you. Heavy D Sparks is the YouTube channel. Yeah, Dave Sparks' channel is Heavy D Sparks. So you can look him up and watch for that video. I'm sure that will be very interesting. I know he's got a ton of viewership on his channel, so I think that's great. I mean, I think the message will get out. So yeah, we'll look forward to that, even though it's as sad of a situation as it is. But Miss Emily, you are through it. Even though you're in the middle of it, you are now at least on the other side. So I just pray that the Lord bless you and watch you and keeps you close, and same for your whole family. And just know that you are loved, and everyone here, just know that you're loved. So we are a family, and we are a group of believers in Jesus Christ, and we want to make that as clear as possible. We even love groundhogs. No, I'm just joking. But let's take a look at the last couple things here. This is the Substack. If you're not on there already, please join the Substack. It's totally free. You just go there and type in your email address and hit subscribe. Pretty easy to do. The subscribe star is the method that I have if you want to contribute to what I'm doing. And I don't have very many people doing that yet, but thank you so much, you guys. You know who you are. I couldn't do it without you for sure. So thank you guys for helping me defray some of the out-of-pocket costs for my time and equipment and software and production time and all of that I am doing on this show. And again, you might not know it, but it takes me a long time to do this show, actually. So thank you guys for supporting the Diamond Report. It means an awful lot to me. And again, I couldn't do it without you. But there's a mechanism there if you guys want to support what I'm doing. And I'm up to 6 subscribers on Subscribestar. So thank you guys for contributing. And I think I'm still at 13 subscribers on Substack as far as people who are paying a little bit. So thank you guys again for doing that. And then if you don't want to or can't contribute, that's totally fine. You can still take part in the Substack either by putting your email in the email address sign up here or just click no thanks and you go right to the actual posts. So at some point on Tuesday, there will be the show that says whatever the name of this show is going to be with the word links after it, and it has all the links to the broadcast for tonight. So I make it as easy as I possibly can. I do. There'll be 2 posts for each show. There's one that's pretty much just the podcast, just the audio podcast. That one will go out tomorrow for tonight's show. It'll go out tomorrow sometime. Tuesday will be all of the links for the articles and the final version of this show when it's up on the other platforms like Rumble and so forth. So that will be available. At some point, those links will be available tomorrow, but the actual email blast that gets sent out with all the links and everything, that's going to happen Tuesday. That's kind of our weekly schedule around here. And then this is the store. If you guys happen to want to contribute that way as well, that's a good way to go. I know some folks have bought some t-shirts and mugs and hats and things like that, and that's a good way to give back as well. And thank you guys who want to go to the store and buy something. It's in the upper right corner up there, Diamond Disc. Well, it's shop.thediamond.report is what it is. diamonddisc.substack.com is the Substack. And then you might see I added a new little brown link there underneath the Diamond Report logo in the corner. It says the alexjonesstore.com/the Diamond Report. If you guys happen to be InfoWars folks, Info Warriors, you know who you are, and support Alex, then if you're already buying supplements or t-shirts or whatever from Alex's store, you can support the Diamond Report as well with one link. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible. They do have an affiliate program, so I'll get a little bit from, whatever you purchase on Alex's store would give me a little bit of a kickback. So that's another way to contribute to the Diamond Report. And so thank you guys very much. If you happen to want to do that, that's very, very cool. So thank you guys. And then take to the Lord in prayer, end times dates. Now, I was noticing that my number of subscribers on my channel has been stuck at 921 for what seems like weeks. Now, it'll go up to 922, 923, 924, and then the next day or so, it'll be right back down to 921. It happens time and time and time again. I've probably been above 921, I don't know, 5 times or more, and it's always been pushed back down to 921. Now, sometimes it'll dip below that even, but it's been stuck at that number for a long time. And I'm thinking that something wonky is going on here, as you guys, many of you know, and have seen other people, other channels talk about. So I'm going to make a video where maybe this week, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, YouTube does mess with you, I know. It messes with me for sure. I'm going to make a video this week where I'm challenging people to get me above 921. And I want to see if I can get above 921 and stay there and not be pushed back down to 921. My guess is it won't be allowed, but I would love to be wrong. I've been stuck at that number for a long time. I just thought I would bring that up because I'm going to try and do a short video on that where I'm asking people to push me over the limit and see if it sticks or see if it's driven back down. And I will try and, as people subscribe, I'll take some screenshots, as it ticks up, and then see what happens as it ticks back down again. So YouTube is playing some pretty terrible tricks on people, but it's the way it goes. All right, and then Rumble isn't really playing games with people as far as I know. I've had pretty good experience on Rumble, so this is it. This is Diamond Disc on Rumble, and BitChute as well. Same thing, Diamond Disc. And the full version of this show will be available on these other platforms, Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon. And for whatever reason, my video on Brighteon last week did really well. Had 222 views. That's an interesting number. But that's really good for Brighteon for me. I usually get like 30 views or 20 views or whatever. I don't know why I had so many more, but it did. And maybe it's because of the title. I don't know. Impeachment has already begun. Was the name of last week's show. And I think that might have been interesting to some people, and that was true. We talked about that last week, how they're already starting the impeachment process against Trump. They did as he was being sworn in. So anyway, there's that, and then here's the band group as well, and we've talked about that quite a bit on this show, but the band group is where some of the fun happens. Not all the fun. We save some of the fun for Sunday nights around here, but the band group is there if you want to join. It's totally free, and the link's in chat, but it's band.us/@the-Diamond-Report is where it is. So anyway, let's watch this last video here on the way out, and hopefully this will bring back some good memories for you. If not, then I apologize. But I think it probably will if you've ever seen this movie, Groundhog Day. One of my favorite movies. Bill Murray in his prime, I would say, early 90s. In that period of time from the, I guess, late 80s to maybe early 90s or so, was to me when he was the funniest. And if you've never seen this movie, you got to see it. But if you're like I am, you've probably seen it like a whole bunch of times already. I don't even know how many times I've seen it. But anyway, I just pray you guys have a really great week. And Miss Emily and family, we will be praying for you guys, as we continue through this week. And the next show will be on the 9th. It'll be a week from now on the 9th at 10 p.m. Central, so we'll get back together then. And I guess my voice held out. I wasn't too sure that it would, but I did okay. And if you guys missed it at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that pretty sure as a self-diagnosis situation, I'm relatively certain I've had walking pneumonia for the last 4 weeks. So all that to say, I'm not going to a doctor. I'm not going to take any antibiotics and kill the good bacteria and all that stuff that it does. So I'm just letting it sort of roll and letting it play out. And hopefully within the next week or two, it'll be completely gone, because the thing that I found said that it would take 4 to 6 weeks. So I think I'm definitely in the over 4 week range at this point. So keep praying for me, you guys, if you don't mind, at least for my health, that I can get my voice back 100%, because I'm still not quite there, but getting there very, very quickly. So that's good. I pray for your week this week. I hope it's a really good one, and hopefully February will be not as interesting as January was, but we'll keep a sharp eye on things, and we'll report back here next week. In the meantime, oil of oregano is a natural antibiotic. Okay, good to know. In the meantime, you guys, hope you guys enjoyed this Groundhog Day trailer. This is just a trailer, but it's only a couple minutes long, so I'll go ahead and play this, and we'll call it a night. We'll see you guys again back here next week.